Folks, that was yesterday in North Carolina as the legislature was meeting to essentially strip the incoming Democratic governor of as many powers as possible. Republicans lost the governor's mansion. Pat McCrory lost, challenged the results. He lost the challenge. As a result, the North Carolina legislature then decided to do a special session to deal with storm relief of people who were devastated by the hurricane earlier this year. Then they quietly and secretly called for a second session to literally strip the governor of as many bills as possible, including changing where the governor previously appointed upwards of 1,500 people. They want to slash that now down to 300, require his cabinet picks to be confirmed by the Republican-led Senate. Also, take away his right to appoint members of the Board of Trustees at the University of North Carolina. But the most important thing is what would happen when it comes to the state election board. They actually yesterday in committee passed a bill 20-8 merging the state election board with the ethics committee. Previously, the governor controlled all of the election boards in the state. And so, Republican governor, he ended up controlling majority of the seats on the state election board, as well as each individual county election board. Now that Republicans are not in control of the governor's mansion, they now want to create a combined board where they have 4 seats and the Democratic governor gets to pick 4 seats. They also want to change the law where on the county level you have 2 and 2, thereby preventing Democrats from being in control of the election boards. Why is this important? 2017, they have state mandated changes there where the courts have ruled they must change the congressional districts and the state districts in North Carolina. Of course, you have the midterm elections in 2018. Not only that, you also have the state Supreme Court, which is supposed to be the highest court in the state. Republicans want to change that as well. They want to strip the state Supreme Court of most of their power and shift it to a lower court. So the lower court, under the state Supreme Court, will have more power than the state Supreme Court. Why? Because they lost a majority of the seats on the state Supreme Court, and they still control a majority of the seats on the appeals court. Folks, what is happening in North Carolina is truly shameful and despicable. And guess what? Donald Trump has said nothing. Reince Priebus, who is still chair, Republican National Committee, has said nothing. National Republicans have ignored this. And today, Congressman Keith Ellison, who is running for DNC chair, will hold a press call where he will be blasting what's happening in North Carolina and trying to bring some national attention. And guess what? Pretty much your national news shows don't give a damn about what's happening there as well. So you talk about the will of the people, that's how they're getting screwed. Critics say what's happening in North Carolina is unconstitutional and hurts working families.
The Republican leadership in the General Assembly has put forth a number of proposed pieces of legislation over the last 12 to 24 hours. Most people might think that this is a partisan power grab, but it is really more ominous. It's really about hurting public education, working families, state employees, health care, and clean air and water.
Shelley, please pull up my iPad, please. Not only that, folks, this is the Charlotte Observer. 2 former North Carolina governors, including a Republican, are criticizing what is happening there in North Carolina. They say in this story that legislatures there are absolutely wrong, including former Governor Jim Martin, who says the Republicans, they are simply going too far. Joining us right now via FaceTime from Durham, North Carolina, State Representative Larry D. Hall, Democratic leader of the North Carolina House of Representatives, and of course here in studio, Barbara Arnwine, Cleo Monago. Representative Hall, it is stunning how nationally people are ignoring what's going on here. We have seen these efforts by Republicans in North Carolina over the last several years. They passed one of the most onerous, shameful, despicable, and undemocratic voter suppression laws where they literally stripped when it came to same-day registration, when it came to civics lessons, allowing 17-year-olds to be able to register. So when they turn 18, they're already registered. I mean, this is a shameful power grab by Republicans in North Carolina.
Well, Roland, good morning, and I'm glad the eyes of the nation are on North Carolina. They're running the regular playbook for voter suppression, and they're running it now past the election date to nullify the election. And that is what they're doing. They're nullifying the will of the people at every level.
And this very much is, this is very similar to what we saw in Virginia, in Alabama, in Mississippi during Jim Crow days.
Well, Roland, you cited it well for those folks who don't know history. And, in North Carolina, we had a voter suppression insurrection that nullified the will of the people in 1898. And so even though actual guns and violence are not being used, political violence is being used in this instance to nullify and reject the will of the people. They voted. They asked for a recount. Republicans asked for the recount. The recount did not satisfy them, so now they're trying to reject the will of the people by nullifying the powers of the governor.
Obviously, first of all, how many seats do they control there in the House and the Senate? Because, frankly, Democrats can't stop this from happening.
We can't stop it at this time. They control 75 seats in the House and 35 seats in the Senate, of 50 in the Senate and 120 in the House. So they have the 3/5 majority they need in order to override the governor's veto at this time. Bear in mind, though, Roland, the courts in August of this year stated that these lines under which we're elected are unconstitutional. They were drawn illegally with a racist purpose, and that's why we have new elections scheduled for 2017.
All right, Representative Hall, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right, go to our panel here. I mean, this is what's interesting, and I've said this here. Republicans don't give a damn. They are going, Democrats want to play nice. Republicans want to win. This is a case where they flat out lost, and they said, fine, we're going to sit here and gut this. And Barbara, as an attorney, there's nothing more shameful than to literally strip the state Supreme Court. First of all, they initially wanted to pack the court.
Right.
So Democrats win, they have a 4-3 advantage. They want to add 2 seats to the state Supreme Court, have the Republican governor appoint those before he leaves to keep a majority 5-4 versus now 4-3. But to now strip the state Supreme Court of nearly all of their power and shift it to the appeals court, and also get rid of making a direct appeal to the appeals court. I mean, they want to essentially say to hell with the voters, we are going to maintain power.
Right. I mean, this is a raw power grab. This is nothing but power saying, stop me if you can. I want to be very clear to everyone listening that this is why the Moral Monday movement in North Carolina, led by Reverend William Barber, has been so critical, because they exposed the governor. Now the Houses and the Senate, the Republican House and Senate, are exposing themselves. So here's what we got to do. We got to be prepared for those next elections. People need to vote their conscience. I think it's very, very important that the Democrats need to be in North Carolina. They need to be protesting. There's something wrong. It shouldn't just be people from the outside. There's the ability on the inside to be protesting. They should have disrupted that chamber. They shouldn't be sitting there just being all polite while these actions are being taken. A coup d'etat, you hear about it all the time. This is what we're seeing. It's a straight up coup d'etat. And remember, people, this is the same thing that happened in Michigan. When they saw that people of color were dominating certain cities, what did they do? They stripped them and gave them emergency managers. That's how we ended up with Flint.
Cleo.
So all these outrageous actions.
You make a very important point. You mentioned that people there are not as talking about it as much, seemingly like people on the outside. But what's going on here, though, is now that Trump is the president-elect, people are even more emboldened.
Right.
And we're going to see even more. But unfortunately,
Absolutely.
a lot of people in our community feel intimidated and confused,
Right.
and are not stepping up. Matter of fact,
they will.
Well, I hope they do, because where's Black Lives Matters now?
No, but here's what's happening. First of all, the Moral Mondays movement, they've been doing that. And in fact, that started off as 16 people who got arrested protesting. And they also began, so it was largely African Americans. Right. Then all of a sudden, they begin to speak to the issues and begin to pull in whites as well. Right, exactly, with fusion politics.
Right.
And actually, I believe if you're the Democratic Party, you should be going to North Carolina and studying what they're doing there.
Right.
But also, the North Carolina NAACP folks, they have been promising a significant number of lawsuits to follow as a result of these actions. And so, again, later today, Congressman Keith Ellison is going to be holding a press call to deal with this. We'll have that on Monday's NewsOne Now.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.